Divine guidance is aligning your steps to reveal the miraculous you can't see alone in 40 days. In the heart of a quaint English village, Hope glanced around like a shy child. Sarah, a devoted single mother, carried the weight of the world on her slender shoulders. Her father's health was fading, the family finances were in dire straits, and each day felt heavy, like an unyielding storm looming over her. It was hard to breathe beneath the burdens. Yet, her faith never wavered, and the familiar warmth of the village church became her haven, her refuge from the storm. One fateful Sunday, under the flickering candles that danced like divine whispers, Pastor James led the congregation in a heartfelt prayer. Chills raced down Sarah's spine as his voice rang out with fervor. Divine guidance shall illuminate your path within 40 days, if you trust. His words hung in the air, shimmering like a promise from above. Gathered villagers, weary yet hopeful, exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Could miracles be on the rise? As the days stretched on, challenges clawed fiercely at Sarah's spirit. Doctors, with their clinical dismissiveness, spun tales of hopelessness, while the relentless tick of financial worry gnawed at her heart. Each setback darkened her prayers, sowing seeds of doubt that crept through her soul. Yet, the church community rallied around her. Children's laughter mingled with prayerful whispers, igniting a flicker of hope. But still, uncertainty wove its way through the hearts of believers. Could they truly lean on a miracle unseen? One chilly afternoon, Sarah trudged home from the market, burdened bags in hand. Out of nowhere, a stranger appeared, eyes bright and warm like the sun breaking through dark clouds. He reached out, offering not just coins but tangible support. Someone who cared. There was something in that moment, a profound kindness that shook her perception of divine intervention. Could this be a glimpse of the miracles promised? As night draped itself over the village, the shadows seemed almost sentient, whispering words of despair. Yet hope flickered in the gathering prayers at the church, where candles glowed like stars against the night sky. Together, they lit their prayers, each flame a beacon against the darkness. Would God truly answer their calls? The tension hung thick as they approached the end of the 40 days. Sarah wondered what lay before them. Just then, during a gathering that seemed charged with holy electricity, an elder shared an astonishing testimony of healing from the brink. Every word soared high, stirring something deep within Sarah, matching her heartbeat with renewed faith. She caught sight of her neighbors, faces softening with undoubted hope. A bond formed, hearts intertwined in a collective calling beyond mere existence. Yet even as hearts warmed, flickers of doubt remained. As the countdown continued, a question loomed large in Sarah's mind. What would happen when the 40 days ended? Would they witness the miracles they sought, or would silence reign, leaving them with the ashes of lost dreams? As the village held its breath, Sarah felt a divine anticipation brewing just beyond the horizon, something miraculous waiting to unfold. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With hearts on the verge of explosion and spirits intertwined in newfound faith, could they collectively unearth the miracles waiting for them? As every candle flickered, mirroring their breaths, Sarah sensed a shift, a wind of change rippling through the village. What revelations lay just beyond the veil? What awaited them in the realm where fear met faith? She felt it, a stirring, a whisper of the divine, promising that the miraculous was closer than they could see. The weeks rolled by, each day blending into the next like the soft hues of dawn. But within the hearts of the villagers, a divine excitement bubbled, and Sarah felt its heat. Was this faith building into something larger than themselves? One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, Sarah returned home to find her young son, Ethan, seated at the kitchen table, crayons sprawled around him like colorful chaos. With deep concentration etched across his small face, He was creating a masterpiece meant to brighten their humble home. "Mummy, look," he beamed, lifting his artwork with innocent pride. The drawing depicted not only their house but also the church, the garden behind it, and the sun shining above each stroke, bursting with joy. Tears stung Sarah's eyes as she beheld the vision of hope through her son's eyes. It reminded her that even amidst worry, light could break through. Could this simple drawing be a sign? A nudge from heaven? "Ethan, this is beautiful," she exclaimed, wrapping her arms around him tightly. His laughter filled the room, erasing shadows of doubt that curled in the corners of her heart. It was moments like these that sparkled with the essence of faith, the light of love, reminding her why she endeavored to find hope. Nights followed. Congregants at the church began meeting every evening to pray and share testimony. Each gathering morphed into a tapestry of faith as stories emerged, each thread telling of struggles met with courage. One night, a mother spoke of her daughter's recovery after a dire prognosis, while another woman recounted an unexpected job offer that lifted her from despair. Listening to them, Sarah's doubt met a fierce resistance. The community's shared stories mirrored her own trials, yet they braved the darkness together. The church transformed into a sanctuary, a cocoon of faith. Could their shared belief weave a stronger miracle than any of them had anticipated? But just as hope blossomed, the weight of the impending deadline loomed ominously over Sarah. 40 days, a ticking clock driving the congregation onward, yet lingering despair threatened to seep in. As prayer candle flames flickered around her, she raised her voice. "What if God has already answered us? Could it be that the miracles we seek are not just physical but spiritual?" Her question hung in the air. The church reverberated with murmurs of agreement, and a wave of understanding washed over the villagers. Pastor James stepped forward, his eyes shining with fervent belief. "Maybe, just maybe, our greatest miracles lie within our hearts. Perhaps God's plan is not bound by time but woven intricately into our spirits." His words ignited a spark, and a collective realization took shape. Faith wasn't just about what God would do, but also about how they respond to his movements in their lives. Moments turned into days as stories illuminated their meetings, leading Sarah to reconsider her definition of miracle. Were they waiting for something grand to happen? Or had God already blessed them with glimpses of hope and community? As they all prayed, Sarah closed her eyes and felt something stir deep within her, an unshakable conviction that divine guidance was leading them somewhere extraordinary. As daylight broke on the final day of their 40-day journey, excitement coursed through the village. What revelation awaited them at the end of this path? What signs of transformation would God reveal? The atmosphere buzzed with divine suspense, as if the heavens themselves held their breath. And with that thought, Sarah whispered a silent prayer, her heart full. Could they be on the precipice of an unimaginable breakthrough? How would they interpret the miraculous when the moment finally arrived? The dawn of the final day brought a hushed stillness over the village. The sun crept slowly above the horizon, spilling its warm light across the dew-dampened grass. As Sarah stood at her window, she could sense a change, an electric charge that seemed to envelop the air. It felt as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for something momentous to unfold. In the church, the familiar faces of the congregation were gathered, each one reflecting a mixture of anticipation and quiet hope. Candles flickered in a soft rhythm, a heartbeat of faith that connected all present. Pastor James stood at the front, his gaze sweeping over his flock as he prepared to speak. Sarah felt her own heart quicken. Every beat pulsed with the excitement of what could lie ahead. "Good morning, beloved," Pastor James began, his voice steady yet imbued with an undeniable warmth. "Today, we gather not just to conclude a journey, but to celebrate and embrace what God has in store for us." His words felt like a balm to Sarah's anxious spirit, wrapping her in the assurance that no matter the outcome, they were all part of something greater. The congregation filled the space with affirming hymns, their voices weaving together in harmony, each note a prayer, a plea, a declaration of faith. Sarah closed her eyes, letting the melody wash over her, transporting her beyond the worries that had held her captive. In that moment, She envisioned every struggle they had faced as threads intricately woven into a larger tapestry, each thread significant, each story profound. Beneath the layers of songs and shared prayers, Sarah felt that stirring within her soul intensify. The realization struck her like a gentle yet powerful wave. Miracles were unfolding every day, not merely as grand, show-stopping events, but in the delicate and beautiful connections they had formed. Her heart swelled as she remembered the stories told in the past weeks, each one a reflection of God's unwavering presence in their lives. Suddenly, a soft rustling from the back of the church drew Sarah's attention. She turned to see an elderly woman, Mrs. Harris, shuffling forward, her frail hands trembling slightly. Silence fell as all eyes turned in her direction. A hush of reverence mingled with curiosity, the anticipation thickening the air. "Forgive me for interrupting," Mrs. Harris began, her voice shaky but resolute. I felt a pull, a need to share something. The congregation leaned closer, encouraging her with their available hearts. "I was widowed many years ago," she continued, "and in my sorrow, I prayed for signs, for hope. But what I found were the friends who walked alongside me in my grief. They were the miracles I had overlooked." Tears brimmed in her eyes as profound understanding settled upon the congregation like a blanket of love. "I learned the true essence of faith lies in the community, in the shared burdens and joys, in the light we find together." Gasps of realization rippled through the crowd. Sarah was taken aback, her heart racing as she grasped the depth of Mrs. Harris's revelation. Could it be that the greatest miracle awaiting them wasn't necessarily one grand event, but rather the strength of their unity, the love and support intertwined among them? The seed of divine truth began to blossom in their hearts. "We've journeyed together, and perhaps that is the miracle we've been building towards," Sarah whispered to herself, feeling the weight of Mrs. Harris's words settle within her. The service continued, prayers and testimonies mingling and rising like incense into the heavens. In that sacred space, Sarah's spirit soared, resonating with possibility. They were indeed standing on the precipice of something remarkable. Would they have the eyes to see it? As the final prayers lingered in the air, a deeper question emerged within Sarah, a question that demanded to be answered. What if the miracle had always been within them, waiting for recognition? How would they harness this newfound understanding? With hearts fully engaged and spirits ignited, the villagers faced the future. What transformation awaited ahead, once they fully embraced the miracles nestled in their shared faith? As the last echoes of the service faded away, Sarah remained in her seat, savoring the ethereal moment. The smell of wax and words lingered around her, heavy with promise. She could see the faces of her neighbors lit with renewed hope, a spark ignited by their shared experience. Perhaps Mrs. Harris was right. They had all come here seeking answers, maybe even miracles, but instead, they had received the gift of each other. With a gentle nudge, Jack, a curl-headed boy seated next to her, whispered, "Can we do it again next week?" The singing was fun. His eyes shone with innocence, a reflection of undisturbed faith. Sarah smiled, her heart warmed by his simple joy. "Of course, Jack. We can sing as long as we want," she replied softly, considering his infectious spirit. As the congregation mingled, laughter and conversation dancing in the air, Sarah turned her gaze outside. The sun now bathed the village in a golden embrace, illuminating the paths they had walked to get here. Paths etched by daily struggles, each corner turned held stories shared, each encounter a potential miracle waiting to flourish. Suddenly, Pastor James approached her, his face radiant. "Sarah, I've been considering ways we can deepen this sacred unity. What do you think about creating small groups to share more stories, prayers, life, even the hard bits?" His words made her heart leap. "That sounds incredible. We can gather in homes, maybe start a group focusing on what we've learned. Sharing sessions could bring us closer." The notion fired her imagination, igniting a vision of community flourishing together. Pastor James nodded, a knowing smile spreading across his lips. "Exactly. I believe we need to open our hearts more, to bring our individual stories to the table. There's so much power in vulnerability. His voice was soft but filled with conviction. Something deep within Sarah stirred. Could it be that, in the revealing of their struggles and joys, deeper miracles would unfold? Each voice mattered. Every story held a unique piece of the larger puzzle. The hum of excitement buzzed around them as others began to engage in discussions about forming groups. Ideas flowed like rivers, painting a picture of hope for the village. Conversations blossomed, rooted in trust and a belief that together, they could unveil the magnificence that God had prepared for them. But even as they spoke of dreams and aspirations, Sarah felt a flutter of uncertainty. What if they opened up their wounds only to find them too raw to bear? Was their faith strong enough to carry them through the shadows? A shadow loomed, not of doubt, but of the unknown. Gathering her courage, Sarah approached her neighbors. What if we each take a turn sharing not just what we have achieved, but also our fears? I think there's healing in our honesty. The murmurs rippled through the crowd, curiosity mixing with apprehension. The thought was both thrilling and uneasy. Would speaking their fears allow the light to shine in on those dark corners? One by one, heads nodded. They felt it too. The people were ready to step into something beautiful together, a collective journey of rediscovery. With renewed conviction, Sarah understood the next steps lay before them. They would create a space for vulnerability and strength to coexist. And in doing so, the real miracles would unfurl among them. As the sun began to dip beneath the horizon, casting long shadows over the village, Sarah's excitement mingled with a small tinge of anxiety. The journey they were about to undertake loomed before her. Could they handle the transformative power of sharing? As she looked into the faces of her friends, she could almost hear the pulse of anticipation in the air. What stories lie waiting, hidden beneath the surface, just waiting for their moment to be revealed? A new chapter was about to begin, and with it came the tantalizing question. How would their unearthing of shared burdens give rise to the miracles long awaited? As the congregation dispersed, Sarah felt the warmth of excitement still radiating in the air, mingled with the cooling evening breeze. She walked towards her home, her mind weaving thoughts together like an intricate tapestry. Each memory from the day shimmered like a thread, hinting at the promise of what was yet to unfold. Jackass laughter echoed in her ears, a gentle reminder that faith could be as simple as a child's joy. Yet, as the sun dipped lower, shadows lengthened, casting a slight chill of doubt on her heart. What if a darkness lingered in their stories, something too heavy to confess? She couldn't shake the thought, would their sacred sharing uncover pain instead of peace? Could wounds opened once again lead to healing or deeper hurt? Just then, a soft voice broke her reverie. Sarah, do you need a moment to breathe? It was Ellen, slipping gracefully beside her, eyes gleaming with that same fervor Sarah had seen in church. I'm pondering what's ahead, Sarah admitted, her lips forming a small smile, grateful for the companionship. Are we really ready to share our fears? Ellen considered this for a moment, her brow furrowing. Sharing isn't just about words, Sarah. It's about connection. It might feel daunting, but think of the hope we can build. Together, we could carry each other's burdens. Sarah nodded, encouraged by Ellen's resoluteness. Hope and fear danced together, the two antagonistic yet necessary companions on this journey. They arrived at Sarah's home, the door creaking open to reveal the gentle glow of candlelight. The living room felt inviting, the scent of fresh-baked bread wrapping around them like an embrace. Invitations lingered, unspoken yet tangible, of the gathering to come. What if we open our little group here first? A handful of us? Sarah suggested, taking a seat. I could prepare a meal. Let us break bread together before we break our hearts. Ellen smiled widely, her enthusiasm infectious. That would be perfect. We can create a safe space right here, where we can share and see how God guides us. As they chatted, a wave of realization washed over Sarah. The act of sharing experienced alongside a meal was sacred. Each ingredient, much like their words, would blend together, creating something nourishing both physically and spiritually. We'll need to reach out to others, to find those who might long for connection, who yearn to share, Sarah said, envisioning the faces of friends and neighbors they'd invite. Ellen's eyes sparkled with excitement. I'll help. We can advertise it at church, perhaps even post notices around town. It'll be an open invitation for anyone yearning for community. Their ideas flowed freely, plans blossoming into existence. With each detail mapped, a sense of divine direction settled within Sarah. God was indeed aligning their steps towards healing and hope. Later that night, Sarah sat on her porch, feeling the cool wind caress her cheeks. Stars twinkled overhead, shining like audience members in a celestial theater, watching their earthly drama unfold. Uncertainty lingered in her heart, but so did courage. What if they really could uncover miracles in each other's stories? Sarah closed her eyes, breathed deep, and listened to the night. Each cricket's song felt like a promise singing of hope. She realized they weren't just embarking on a project. They were embracing a sacred journey of souls woven into a vibrant community. And as faith intertwined with fellowship, her spirit swelled with expectancy. How might God transform not just their stories but also the very fabric of their village during this new beginning? She opened her heart to the mysteries that awaited, ready for revelations that could only emerge in shared vulnerability. The night whispered possibilities. What divine connections lay just around the corner, waiting for their hearts to dance together in faith. The next morning broke with a gentle glow, painting the kitchen with a hue of warmth as the sun filtered through the window. Sarah stood at the counter, kneading dough with a rhythm that felt sacred. Each fold and press seemed to echo the call of kindness she was extending to others. As she worked, she could hear the soft whispers of possibility, lingering like the sweet aroma of the bread rising beside her. Ellen arrived just as Sarah slipped the loaf into the oven, her face bright with excitement. I talked to some folks after church, she exclaimed, her enthusiasm contagious. The response was incredible. People want to share, to connect. Feels like this flame is starting to spark. A smile spread across Sarah's face, her heart buoyed by the growing momentum. What if we also had a theme? Something that resonates with everyone, highlighting hope and healing? She suggested, envisioning the gathering's contours solidifying under the guiding light of inspiration. Yes, something involving stories like biblical testimonies. We can invite them to share moments when they felt God's presence. Ellen replied, her eyes sparkling with ideas. As the day progressed, they set forth on their mission. They discussed, planned, and wrote notes, reaching out to friends, neighbors, and those longing for connection. It was remarkable to see how the simple idea of sharing could blossom into something greater. Each invitation they penned felt like casting seeds into fertile soil, ready to yield rich fruits of fellowship and grace. Even as they busied themselves, Sarah couldn't help but feel that familiar flutter of uncertainty again. What if someone spoke of unbearable sorrow? What if the meeting stirred up pain rather than healing? But then she remembered Ellen's words, about sharing being more than just speaking about the profound way connections form in vulnerability. Just imagine, Sarah mused aloud, her voice softening as she contemplated the outcome. What if we discover a story so powerful that it transforms our perspective on pain? What if someone finds a voice they never knew they had?
Ellen's gaze flickered thoughtfully.
That's the beauty of gathering in prayer and honesty. Each heart has its own trials, but in sharing we see God's handiwork in unexpected ways. It brings unity, a reminder we're not alone. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden rays through the trees, Sarah and Ellen finished their preparations. Their souls were intertwined with anticipation, buzzing like fresh energy weaving into the fabric of their small community. That evening, as darkness enveloped the village, they prepared a simple yet inviting table setting. The dining room transformed into a haven where sacred stories could unfold, a space encircled by hope. Candles flickered, casting soft shadows, and the warmth of the bread they had baked lingered in the air like a divine promise. Soon, faces began to arrive, eyes bright with curiosity and some adorned with deep-set lines of life's stories. Each greeted with warmth, like a willing embrace, the atmosphere thick with expectation. They were here not just as individuals but as companions on a shared journey, a tapestry of lives intersecting. woven by Geode. As Sarah looked around the room, she felt a stirring in her spirit. This was more than just a meal. It was the beginning of something magnificent. Could they truly create a safe harbor for one another and witness God's transformative power? The gathering began slowly, with tentative introductions. But with each shared story, each laugh and tear, something lifted in the air. Bonds were forming as if the Holy Spirit was threading their hearts together, reminding them they were cherished, connected, and seen. Yet, just as the conversations took flight, a hush fell, a moment of stillness as someone spoke a painful truth. The vulnerability they longed for was surfacing, and the spirit of communion hung delicately around them, urging them to lean deeper into the stories waiting to be revealed. What connections could emerge from this wave of honesty? With hearts holding their breath, they were poised on the edge of a divine transformation, ready to witness how light could dance through the cracks of their shared wounds. How might God unveil the miracles crafted in these sacred exchanges? As the silence deepened, it felt as if time itself held its breath. The flickering candles cast trembling shadows on the walls, echoing the delicate vulnerability in the air. Sarah's heart raced as she sensed a shift, a sacred invitation to dig deeper into the communal well of shared experiences. Ellen nodded knowingly, her face a blend of empathy and encouragement. The delicate balance of hope and uncertainty filled the space, and Sarah could almost hear the unspoken prayers fluttering around them. This was the moment when their gathering could transcend the ordinary. The first voice broke through the stillness, echoing with tremors of struggle. "Life has been difficult," a woman from the back murmured, her gaze turned inward. "I lost my job when I needed it the most, and every day feels like a climb without a summit." There was an almost palpable sound of collective breath in the room, a shared heartbeat that reverberated with understanding. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. The courage it took to voice one's pain was a thin thread yet woven into a tapestry of healing. As people began to nod and shift forward in unity, stories cascaded like a gentle waterfall. There was a man whose journey through illness had left him raw but had illuminated the beauty of compassion. There was a mother sharing her battle with loneliness, who spoke of grace arriving in the unsuspecting form of a kind stranger. With each recounting, the atmosphere thickened with warmth and familiarity. Laughter mingled with tears. Unexpected revelations unfolded under the soothing embrace of Goddess presence. "My brokenness led me to this community," Helen, an older woman with silver hair, shared, her voice steady and serene. "I needed to know I wasn't alone, that I was still part of this beautiful tapestry we're weaving together. God promised to be near to the brokenhearted, and you all are fulfilling that promise." A gentle acceptance enveloped the gathering. Souls found solace in shared struggles, and hearts unlocked tender places they didn't even know were closed. Sarah saw faces softening, releasing burdens little by little, as light began to dance in the tendered spaces. "This is what it's all about," Ellen whispered to Sarah, her eyes glistening. "The stories we carry aren't just ours. They belong to everyone. When we share, we're bringing pieces of God's love to life." As the gathering progressed, a deep sense of holy conviction hovered. With each shared experience, it became clear they were part of a much larger narrative, one filled with divine purpose. Sarah's spirit buzzed with excitement, a realization breaking through all hesitation. This meeting was changing lives. The raw honesty uncovered hidden strengths, and hearts were being stitched together with threads of hope and understanding. But just as they thought they had reached a peak of connection, a new voice hesitated in the doorway, shrouded in darkness and uncertainty. A young man stood frozen, tension etched across his brow. "I feel like I failed everyone," he stammered, each word heavy with despair. "I don't know how to heal." Sarah felt a shift, electric yet anxious, the air crackling with possibility. It was a pivotal moment, one that threatened to turn the tide in ways they hadn't fathomed yet. Would this brave soul reveal not just his pain, but also the potential for transformation? As the gaze of the community turned toward him, a sacred expectancy filled the room. How would they respond? What miraculous change might unfold when the light of shared love met the darkness of doubt? Would they stand together to guide him toward healing, and how might their own journeys take flight in the process. The young man took a hesitant step into the circle, his eyes darting nervously among the faces turned toward him. The weight of his vulnerability hung in the air, but instead of recoiling, a wave of compassion washed over the gathered souls. "Tell us your name," Ellen urged gently, her voice soothing like a balm. "Daniel," he whispered, the name trembling on his lips like a prayer. "Daniel," the community echoed softly, their unity forming a protective cocoon around him. Taking a deep breath, Daniel continued, "I don't know how I ended up here. I've spent so long feeling lost and unworthy. I just don't see a way out." His voice cracked, vulnerability spilling out like water from a shattered vessel. In that moment, Sarah felt a fire ignite within her. She knew there was power in conversion, and as she glanced around, she could see that others were also awakening to something profound. Ellen reached out, giving Daniel a reassuring nod as if to say, "You are not alone in this." The murmurs of encouragement rippled through the room. "What if," Sarah began, her voice resonating with newfound conviction, "what if the very things that break us open are the doorways to new beginnings?" A sense of collective reflection ensued. The community embraced the notion that their shared struggles were not burdens, but a path leading them to grace. Daniel's eyes widened slightly, as if some hope had dared to flicker in his chest. Helen spoke next, her voice rich with kindness. "God works in mysterious ways. Your pain, dear Daniel, might just be a catalyst for beautiful healing, not just for you, but for all of us." The realization that their journeys intertwined ignited an electric air in the room. It became clear that Daniel's experience was an invitation for everyone to engage with their own hidden wounds. The gathering shifted from being merely a space of comfort to one of powerful possibility. As the stories began to flow again, people openly shared their own struggles with doubt and despair. Each recounting shone a light on the dark corners where hope had felt distant. 3 years ago, I too felt that I'd failed everyone in my life, a woman confessed, her voice now rising with strength. But it was in that moment of despair I found my calling, helping others through their struggles. Sometimes our broken places are precisely where we find our greatest strength. Each voice wove a thread of resilience into Daniel's fabric of despair, creating a tapestry rich with understanding and empathy. Laughter punctuated the moments of catharsis, while tears flowed freely as burdens were laid down. Daniel's gaze softened, seeing reflections of himself in each story shared. He could hardly believe how the light began to penetrate his tunnel of despair, illuminating a path he never knew existed. "I'm not alone," he murmured, almost to himself as the evening wore on. The candles flickered with a deeper glow, casting a warm light like the budding flame of hope. Everyone felt an urgency to sustain this moment, to lean into it and allow it to mold their futures. "What if," Sarah spoke once more, her heart swelling, "together, we step forward. What might God do through us when we lay our burdens at His feet?" A palpable excitement filled the space as anticipation hung thick in the air. They were on the cusp of awakening a divine alignment promising transformation beyond their wildest imaginings. But in the midst of this revelation, Daniel's expression changed. "What if I can't let go of my fears?" he whispered, his vulnerability returning, causing a stillness to grip the room. A collective breath was held, hearts pounding, waiting for the answer that could guide not just Daniel, but all of them into the next chapter of their faith journey. What validation might unfold in their souls if they dared to believe that healing was indeed possible, even when doubt loomed large. The air felt thick with unspoken possibilities, a gentle current urging each heart present to lean deeper into the sacred moment. Daniel's question hung there, still reverberating. Fear was a familiar companion, one that often felt insurmountable. Yet here, surrounded by compassionate souls, he sensed a flicker of hope daring to rise. Ellen stepped forward, her voice filled with grace. "Daniel, the very act of admitting your fear is a mighty step toward freedom. You are beginning to break the chains that bind you." She paused, locking her gaze with his. What if letting go is less about erasing that fear and more about embracing something greater? Hope twinkled in Daniel's eyes as he considered her words. There was clarity in the simplicity. Letting go didn't mean the absence of fear, but an acknowledgement that he could choose love and faith over uncertainty. You see, Sarah chimed in with fervor, when we open our palms to God, we allow him to fill them with his purpose. Maybe your fears are just shaping you for a higher calling. You must trust the journey. This time, exhilaration swept through the gathered community. Each shared glance, each nod of understanding bound them together, a web of mutual support woven by the threads of their experiences. The moment felt electric, with the promise of divine transformation amplifying every heartbeat. A quiet man named James spoke up, his voice surprisingly steady. I remember when I stood where you are, Daniel. For years, I feared that I'd never be enough. But then, I realized that my worth came not from my strength but from my surrender. I let God carry my fears, and in that space, I found peace. As his words flowed, it felt as if a powerful breeze swept through the circle. People began sharing stories of triumph over trepidation, of moments when faith had eclipsed fear. Each account not only warmed Daniel's heart, but invited him to explore his own resilience. Then, Helen raised her hands, grounding the space. Let us pray. Pray together. Let our fears transform into testimonies. Find strength in our shared encounter with the sacred. As they bowed their heads, a profound silence enveloped the room, with voices lifting in harmony like birds taking flight. The sound was pure, a melody of faith resonating deep within. Lord, they intoned, help us release our fears. Help us see the purpose behind our struggles. Let us trust your guiding light in our darkest moments. Tears flowed freely, not from sorrow but from the exhilaration of release and renewal. In the collective vulnerability, it was as though each soul began to bloom, unfolding like petals to the sun. When the prayer ended, Daniel's face reflected a newfound peace. I can feel it, he murmured, astonished at how light felt in his heart. Perhaps I won't ever let go of fear entirely, but I can choose to bring it along and share it with God. Excited whispers filled the gathering, a fire igniting in each spirit. The momentum was palpable, propelling them toward deeper truths they had yet to uncover. What's next? Someone asked into the warm atmosphere, and everyone leaned closer, eager to hear. Sarah smiled widely, her heart racing with anticipation. Let us step into the unknown together. We can embark on a journey 40 days of prayer, healing, and discovering our strength in unity. What do you think God might reveal to us? A chorus of agreement rose, encouraging Daniel and each participant to join hands and step toward a shared journey that could transform them all. As they clasped hands, Daniel looked up, a hint of mischief dancing in his eyes. What if this journey leads us somewhere we never expected? The gathering held its breath once more, filled with wonder, ready to embrace the divine mystery ahead. What revelations awaited them, hidden just beyond their fears? As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, the village glowed softly under the blanket of dusk. It was the closing day of their sacred 40-day journey, a time filled with prayer, tears, and laughter. The air tingled with possibility, and Sarah stood at the church door, heart racing with hope and a sacred anticipation. What awaited them inside under the familiar glow of candlelight? The congregation filed in, faces shining with a shared understanding of the trials endured. Sarah caught Pastor James' eye. His nod of encouragement spurred her forward. With every familiar face gathered, she could feel the sacred tapestry they had woven, each thread rich with their stories. Welcome, beloved. Pastor James greeted them, his voice like a warm embrace. Today isn't just about endings. It's about the beginnings that lie ahead. A swell of understanding moved through the crowd as everyone settled. Sarah felt a stirring within. The transformation wasn't merely personal. It was collective. Each villager had lived through heartaches and joys, and together, they dared to uncover their miracles. With each prayer unwrapped, confidence grew thick in the air, and gratitude blended sweetly with expectation. Mrs. Harris sat near the front, her silver hair catching the candlelight. Miracles aren't always grand gestures, she shared, her voice steady. Sometimes they unfold in the lives we touch, each act of kindness, each story shared. Nods of agreement rippled through the room. A sense of unity enveloped them, and collective memories began to surface. I remember once feeling utterly lost. A young woman began, voice wavering. I came to you all for comfort, and in the embrace of your support, I found a family. Tears sparkled in the corners of eyes. This was their shared truth, a holy bond shaped through faith and compassion. With each word exchanged, Sarah felt a joyful warmth bloom in her chest. They had confronted raw emotions together. The dialogue was healing, lifting the burdens they had carried for too long. Let us lift our voices, Pastor James beckoned. Let us declare the hope we've found together. The congregation united in song, voices mingling like the fragrant flowers in spring, each note soaring high, echoing their newfound faith. As the final hymn poured out in jubilation, Sarah glanced around the room, taking in the vibrant expressions of gratitude and renewal. Hearts intertwined like vines growing upward, reaching toward the heavens. Tears streamed down her cheeks, not of sorrow, but of profound joy. Sarah, Daniel's voice cut through her thoughts, filled with an urgency uncharacteristic of the meekness he had shown when they first met. You helped show me that fears don't need to paralyze us. You reminded me that lifting each other, embracing the struggle, that's the miraculous part. The entire room buzzed with energy. Hope shimmered in the air like the golden rays fading beyond the horizon. Sarah looked back at him, feeling a bond forged in the fires of struggle. And we've all been changed, haven't we? This journey was never just about seeking miracles. We've found blessings in each other. A murmuring of agreement rippled through the congregation. Each soul recognized that their shared burdens had transformed into light, guiding them deeper into God's embrace. They had illuminated the shadows of uncertainty and woven a sanctuary of connection. Pastor James returned to the front, standing amongst them with a might that resonated powerfully. Let's keep this spirit alive, dear friends. Let us continue to gather, to share our stories, and let God lead us into deeper waters. Yes, the room echoed uniformly. They weren't the same village that began this journey. No longer just faces in the crowd. They had become interwoven lives, a grander tapestry of stories, colors, and shared faith. As the service came to a close and people began to mingle, the atmosphere buzzed with a sense of divine urgency. Each conversation erupted with enthusiasm, a commitment to remain intertwined, to keep uncovering the miraculous in their shared existence. As Sarah headed toward the door, glances of surprise and joy shifted around her. She heard one after another. Can we share again next week? What if we could have a potluck, too? The excitement settled firmly in Sarah's heart. The seeds planted were beginning to bloom in ways they could never have imagined. She stepped into the cool night air, gazing up to the stars, twinkling like affirmations above them. Each glow represented possibilities yet to be explored together. How wondrous this journey would unfold when souls united in faith continued to seek the miracles of shared existence. Now was the time to act. Friends, do not let this moment pass. You need to subscribe now and hit that bell icon so you don't miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help share this blessing. Comment your thoughts and testimonies about this ending, let your voices be heard, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this divine manifestation. Together, let's spread faith and light to those who are searching. Don't wait even one more second. Let us embrace this journey.